Now, I picked up this book a while back, Atomic Habits by James Clear. And I'll be honest with you, I almost put it down. Not because it wasn't good, because it was too good. The kind of book that makes you set it down, stare at the wall, and think about all the ways you've been fighting yourself, when you didn't have to be fighting at all. And it reminded me of a woman a lot of us know, in one way or another. Her name was Diane. Diane Kowalski was a 44-year-old chemistry teacher in a mid-sized Ohio town. And let me tell you something, her classroom was spotless. Every beaker had a place, every lab station labeled. You leave a pencil on the wrong desk, Diane's picking it up like it's evidence at a crime scene. She could teach the mole concept to 16-year-olds who'd rather be doing literally anything else. And by the end of the period, half of them actually understood it. That is a miracle, friends. She had her classroom figured out, her lesson plans figured out. But somewhere along the way, she'd stopped being able to figure out herself. See, 7 years before this story starts, Diane had lost 40 pounds. She was dead serious. 5 a.m. alarms, calorie tracking down to the tablespoon, said no to birthday cake at staff meetings. And if you know anything about school staff meetings, you know the cake is the only reason people show up. People noticed. Her doctor was thrilled. Diane felt like a woman who'd cracked the code. But then, slowly, quietly, the way a creek rises when nobody's watching, it all came back. Pound by pound. Excuse by excuse. Until one morning she stepped on that scale and realized she was right back where she'd started. And the worst part wasn't the weight. The worst part was the shame. Because she'd already proven she could do this. Which meant the only explanation was that she'd gotten weak. Then came the doctor's visit. Her blood pressure was up. Cholesterol was creeping in. Her doctor looked at her over the top of her glasses and said, very gently, "We need to talk about this again." After that, Diane drove home with her jaw tight and her hands at 10 and 2. She knew the drill. She'd done it before. She was going to fix this. For real this time. And Lord, did she come out swinging. Monday morning, brand new leather journal, 2 apps on her phone, a gym membership, which, for the record, was her 4th. 4 gym memberships. I don't even have 4 good pairs of socks, and this woman had 4 gym memberships. She meal prepped on Sunday like she was catering a wedding. Set her alarm for 5 a.m. and actually got up. Twice. Bought a water bottle the size of a small child and carried it everywhere. Week 1, great. Week 2, fine. By Wednesday of week 3, the alarm went off at 5 a.m. and she just stared at the ceiling. Didn't hit snooze, didn't turn it off, just lay there, listening to it beep, thinking, I cannot do this again. That Friday night, she found herself at the kitchen sink at 10 p.m., holding an empty cracker wrapper. Not a few crackers, the whole sleeve gone. She didn't even remember eating them. Her hands had made a decision her brain hadn't signed off on. She threw the wrapper away, turned off the kitchen light, and sat on the couch in the dark. That's what defeat feels like when you've tried everything you know how to try. But then, something happened. Something so small, Diane almost missed it entirely. Her sister Karen was coming to visit that Saturday, so Diane did what Diane does. She tidied, wiped counters, fluffed pillows she didn't even like. And she moved the candy bowl off the kitchen counter and stuck it in the pantry. Not for any health reason, just because it didn't look nice sitting out. And at the end of that perfectly ordinary Saturday, she realized she hadn't eaten a single piece of candy. Not one. Now, she hadn't resisted it. She hadn't white-knuckled past it, hadn't written in her journal about temptation. She just hadn't seen it. And because she hadn't seen it, she hadn't wanted it. James Clear has a line in Atomic Habits that stopped me cold. He says, "You don't have to be the victim of your environment. You can also be the architect of it." Standing in that kitchen, staring at the empty counter where that candy bowl used to be, Diane Kowalski felt something she hadn't felt in a long, long time. Not willpower, not motivation, curiosity. What else could she redesign? Here is where the story gets good, because what happened next was so un-Diane. No 90-day plan, no fresh journal. She just started noticing things. She noticed the fruit bowl was on top of the fridge where nobody could see it. She moved it to the center of the counter, right where the candy bowl used to be. She noticed her walking shoes were in the back of the closet, behind a box of old tax returns. She put them next to the coffee maker, right there on the kitchen floor, where she'd see them every morning while the pot brewed. Her daughter came over and said, "Mom, why are your sneakers next to the Folgers?" Diane said, "Because that's where they need to be." She put her journal on her pillow each night just so she'd find it when she climbed into bed and jot down one line. Walk to the mailbox. Cold, but nice. Each change was small, a little embarrassing if you tried to explain it. But each one removed a decision. Not willpower, architecture. Then she went back to those crackers. She looked at her pantry the way she'd look at a lab setup. The crackers were at eye level, right up front. First thing she saw when she opened the door. So she moved them to the highest shelf, behind the kidney beans nobody was ever going to eat. You'd need a step stool and a sense of purpose to reach those crackers now. Clear writes in that book, people who seem to have incredible self-control aren't actually better at resisting temptation. They just spend less time in tempting situations. Self-control is a short-term strategy, not a long-term one. Diane wasn't becoming more disciplined. She was becoming a better architect. A few weeks into this quiet experiment, a colleague named Maria mentioned that some teachers had started a Saturday morning walking group. Nothing fancy, just a loop around the park near the school. She said it real casual, like mentioning the weather. "You should come sometime." Diane almost said no. She was not a group person. The idea of walking with people who'd want to talk about feelings? No, thank you. But she went, just once, just to be polite. And you know what? These weren't fitness people. Nobody wearing a tracker. They were just teachers, walking, talking about their weeks. Somebody complained about the new grading software for 20 minutes, and Diane had a lot to say about that grading software. So the walk just sort of happened. She came back the next Saturday, and the one after that. Not because walking was transforming her body, but because she'd started to look forward to Saturday mornings in a way she hadn't looked forward to anything in a while. James Clear writes about this in Atomic Habits. We don't just imitate the habits of the people around us, we absorb them. When your desired behavior is the norm of your group, change becomes attractive instead of exhausting. Diane didn't know she was joining a tribe. She thought she was being polite. But every Saturday she showed up, she was casting a quiet vote for a different version of herself. Then came month 3. And this is the part I need you to lean into, because this is where most people quit. Diane had been walking every Saturday, redesigning her kitchen, writing her one line, doing everything right. And she stepped on the scale one Tuesday morning, wrapped in a towel, hair still wet, and the number had barely moved. 3 months of quiet work, and the scale looked at her like nothing had happened. She stood there and thought, what is the point? Here's what James Clear calls the plateau of latent potential. He uses this image, an ice cube sitting in a cold room. 25 degrees, 26, 27, nothing. 28, 29, 30, 31. The ice cube just sits there. But then you hit 32 and it begins to melt. Not because that last degree was special, because all the work before it was being stored. She was at 31 degrees. She couldn't see the melting yet. She almost stopped. Missed her Saturday walk. Nearly missed the next one, too. But there was a sticky note on her bathroom mirror. 4 words in her own handwriting. Never miss twice. Missing once is an accident. Missing twice is the start of a new habit. She'd missed 1 Saturday. She was not going to miss 2. So she went. She didn't feel inspired. She didn't feel hopeful. She just showed up. Because Diane Kowalski was a woman who followed instructions, even her own. And then, sometime after the valley, something shifted. The way sunrise happens, not all at once, just a slow brightening until you realize the dark is gone. She caught herself in the faculty lounge one afternoon. Someone brought cookies, the good ones from that bakery on Main Street, and passed them around. Diane took one, ate it, enjoyed it. When the plate came back around, she just waved it past. No negotiation, no clenched jaw, just, no thanks, I'm good. Like it was nothing. Like it was just who she was. That is what James Clear means by identity-based habits. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. You don't need a unanimous vote. You just need a majority. And Diane had been casting votes for months. Quiet, tiny, invisible votes. Until, without a ceremony or a finish line, she became someone different.
Now come the end-of-year staff party. There were folding tables loaded with pasta salad, fried chicken, a sheet cake with Happy Summer in frosting so blue it probably violated a health code. The old Diane would have spent the whole evening doing math in her head. This Diane just filled her plate. Some chicken, the good salad Linda from English always made, a brownie because she wanted it and it was a party. She sat down with Maria and talked about summer plans. And at some point she realized she hadn't thought about the food once since she sat down. That's not discipline. That's identity. On the way out, the hallway was mostly empty. A quiet girl from 3rd period was standing by the water fountain. "Miss Kowalski," she said, "can I ask you something? You just seem different this year. Like calmer. Like someone who's figured something out. Did something happen?" Diane looked at her, and she thought about the candy bowl, the running shoes next to the coffee maker, the Saturday walks that started because she was too polite to say no, the sticky note on the mirror, the scale that didn't move for 3 months. "I'm still figuring it out," she said. "That's sort of the whole thing. Now I want to ask you something directly. What's one thing in your environment, right now, today, that keeps putting you in the wrong place at the wrong time? The phone on the nightstand, the chips at eye level, the running shoes in the back of the closet. What is it? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one. Here's the truth, friends. People always want change to be a moment. The lightning bolt. The transformation montage where the music swells and you come out the other side a new person.
But that ain't how it works. Not for Diane. Not for most of us. Change is more like what she'd teach her students about chemical reactions. You add a little heat. You adjust the conditions. You wait. And for the longest time, nothing seems to happen. But underneath, everything is rearranging. And then the reaction happens, not because of that last moment, but because of every moment before it. That's what Atomic Habits by James Clear is really about. Not productivity hacks, not morning routines. It's about the idea that you are not your goals. You are your systems. The small things you do when nobody's watching. Get those small things right, and you become someone you didn't plan to become. You just wake up one day and realize the ice has been melting for a while now. Diane didn't transform because she found the right program. She transformed because she stopped looking for programs and started rearranging her kitchen. Change doesn't announce itself. It doesn't knock on the door and hand you a certificate. It just quietly becomes who you are. Now, if Diane's story reminded you of somebody, maybe even yourself, I'd be much obliged if you'd hit that like button and subscribe. I've got more stories coming, and I'd hate for you to miss them. And if you pick up Atomic Habits, come on back and tell me which part got you. I'm always curious. All right, that's enough out of me for today. Go move your fruit bowl. I'll see you next time.